Let's check out today's conversation. Mike sits down with Regional Sales Director Michelle Bourdon. Michelle walks us through the growth of her mindset, starting with a childhood that was filled with anxiety.
I was at gunpoint. I watched everything that was going on.
And you're 10.
I was 10 years old.
To cultivating resilience under her new nickname, Bourbon.
Every day leaving my house, I would pass this tree and I'd be like, all right, Bourbon, you're on. Michelle, stay home.
To finally embracing a mindset that aligned with her dreams.
I'm helping my sister with her dream.
Right.
This isn't my dream.
All of this coming up next on the Level Up Lifestyle.
All right, well, welcome everyone to the Level Up Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sheets. We're coming to you live, as always, from Globe Life Studios here in McKinney, Texas. Today we got Bourbon.
Hello, hello.
Hello, not in the cup.
Not in the cup.
But on the set, right?
Yes,
Michelle Bourdon.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well,
Thank you.
thanks for being here. You go by Bourbon.
I do.
Your name's Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a great story on how that happened.
Yes.
Right. Just, this season 2 is all about mindset in the Level Up Lifestyle Podcast. And so just what is the mindset that made you who you are? What's the mindset that gets you through challenges? What's the mindset that helps you succeed?
Yeah.
And I think your story is a great story of who you were and then who you became.
Yeah.
And you make
Thank
this
you.
transition from Michelle to Bourbon.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes you to the next level. It helps you level up.
It does.
Right.
It does. Yeah.
So let's unpack it. Let's get into it. This is gonna be great.
Let's do it.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, let's start in the beginning, right?
Okay.
Michelle Bourdon.
Yep.
Born where and what was the early parts of your life?
Hinesville, Georgia.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know where that's at.
I don't either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless if you're from there. But a lot of people know it because it's right outside of Fort Stewart.
Okay.
And so that's a base in Georgia. But yeah, Hinesville, Georgia is where I was born, but didn't really stay long there. My family, when I was young, moved around a lot to different states.
So you're kind of, was your family military then or?
No, I get that question asked a lot, but no, they just, I guess we're trying to find their place.
So how many times would you say you moved as a child growing up?
Oh man, I couldn't even count. I mean, over
More
10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15, 20, something like that probably.
It
at
was
least.
up there, yeah.
Yeah. So what did your parents do? What was kind of the dynamic like as you're becoming a person, as you're growing up?
A person.
Yeah, as you're growing up, right?
It.
Yeah.
My mom, she's the one that raised us, my mom and my grandmother. My mom actually worked 3 jobs. My mom and dad separated when I was young.
Gotcha.
Very, very young. And so, it was just, my mom was a workaholic. I think that's where I kind of get it from, the hustle and the grind. Just trying to be the best that you can. It takes time and effort. And I think I get that from her, just seeing that growing up.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also, probably trying to support the family, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. And your siblings?
I do. I am one of 7.
Wow. Okay.
But my mom and dad, it's just 2 of us. My sister Rachel and I, she's older.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, spending most of the time with your mom, I mean, I'm just curious, like, as you're, like, what are you into? What are things that are formative to you as a child growing up?
I think one of the main things that has molded who I am now is seeing my mom work so hard, but really never being present. My grandmother's the one that raised me because she was working, you know, and my mom, they come from the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So she struggled growing up. So her goal was, I never want my kids to struggle.
Yeah.
And so that was her main thing. And then on the flip side, when I had to move with my dad, when I became 10, 11, and he has half a lung, so he can't work. So we were on the system. And but my dad was also a hustler. He was always flipping cars, always making ends meet. And so with my mom, I got the side of having a decent living. We were never wealthy by any means, but never needed anything. And then with my dad, we had the family, the typical mom, dad, I had a stepmom, siblings, and the mom always at home, the dad's there, but we were so poor, thank God, never went out a meal, but, ramen and French fries and hot dogs were.
Sometimes that was dinner.
That was dinner,
Yeah.
So seeing both, I knew growing up that I had to go to school, I had to work hard so that I can have that work-life balance. I wanted to be that great mom and that family person, but without costing me being gone all the time.
Yeah. Was there a moment like as a kid where you realized like you're in a certain economic level compared to maybe some of your friends or what you saw from them? I mean, you said like eating a lot of ramen, things like that, but it's like, was it an awareness to you as a child? Like, oh, I know where we are and I want to be able to get out of that later? Or what was that like?
Yeah, a little bit with my mom. She was the one that would take us to the fancy restaurants, and, she always wanted us to be raised in that lifestyle because that's what she was working towards. And so when I moved, I knew what that was like, but funny enough, growing up with her, I resented money, because that was the price of not having her there. Now that I'm older, I understand and I appreciate her hustle and her grind. And then moving with my dad, when I saw the difference of what it was like, and I give a lot of kudos to my dad and my stepmom. I never felt less than.
Sure.
I just knew.
Yeah.
That we didn't have what other people had, but I knew from a very young age that life was meant to be lived to the fullest, and you had to work hard for it. And at that time, it was college. So I was a straight A student, did everything. I was very focused in school because I knew that I had to graduate. I knew I didn't have the money for to go to school, so I needed scholarships. And it was just something that from the time I can remember, that's just always been instilled in me and my sister.
But if you moved a lot, how hard was that to be focused? Because I'm assuming you're changing schools.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe every grade or every other grade or something like that?
Pretty much, yeah.
How hard was that as a child trying to say, hey, I want to go to college because I want to set myself up better, but like every school is different and you learn something, you don't learn something. I mean, how was that?
Honestly, I loved it, because I feel like that's what helped me adapt.
Okay.
I think all those years prepared me for life insurance, right? Because you meet new people every day and you have to connect with them and not being scared. I mean, I'm always scared. I say not being scared. Those are things that I still work on to this day.
Maybe taking action if you're scared.
Exactly. People still intimidate me to this day, but it doesn't stop me from going out there and talking to people. So I think, those early years got me comfortable with being uncomfortable. And just being out there.
Well, that's just such a great phrase, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because I was going to say, it couldn't have been easy. Even if you said you liked it, it couldn't have been easy.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
So is it just the mindset of, I like the challenge, or is it the mindset of, I want more in my life when I get a chance to call the shots? Like what is it about you that allowed you to thrive in something that I think would really derail a lot of kids, just moving around a lot?
I've always been a fan of life.
Okay.
And I never take a day for granted. And that was something from early on, so I knew this is my situation and you have two options. You can sulk and be sad and be mad at the world, or you can just see it as a new opportunity. Okay, what does this chapter hold? Yeah. And I'm very blessed to say that I've had that mindset since I was young. Been through a lot that makes you appreciate. At a very young age, makes you appreciate being alive. Yeah. So. Well,
I know there was like maybe two kind of moments in your childhood when we talked before this. And we don't have to go like deep into, that, man, because we're going, I know we're going really deep in some of those things, but like, something happened when you were 10 and that's what forced you to move in with your dad. Correct. And then as you're kind of figuring out some things that happen. I mean, if you just want to, kind of just, a little bit about those scenarios or those situations. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in Michigan, there was an instance where, we had to move, for our protection, my sister and I. And so that's when I ended up living with my dad for the first time. Yeah.
I think you said it was like a home invasion.
It was a home invasion.
A whole thing.
Yes, it was a whole thing. I was at gunpoint. I watched everything that was going on.
And you're 10.
I was 10 years old.
Wow.
I was 10 years old. And, after that, a lot of focus was on my sister. She was 15 at the time, which was perfectly fine for me because I felt so blessed, as crazy enough as it is, to just go through what I went through. Like, that's how horrible it was for her and my mom.
Right.
For me to say that I could walk away with that. So, that was a huge pivoting point. And that's, I think, the first thing that I was just so grateful to be alive, after that point.
And to have that mindset at 10 years old, though.
It's crazy, right?
Because it's mind blowing, right? I have a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And, I just wonder, like, what if those types of things happen, how does a child view that? And then, so then you move in with your dad.
So then I move in with my dad.
Yeah.
At this point, we have my other sibling, Isabel, who that's kind of like where I just turned everything to. My life has always been church back then, music, and my baby sister. I think that's what kind of kept me sane. During
This is your younger
time.
sister now.
She's younger sister.
Okay.
So I'm 12 years older than her.
Okay.
And
so this is like when you get in with your dad, then it's like, oh, here's a
absolutely.
baby sibling.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I saw that as a huge blessing. It kept me focused. So between her and school and music, I was okay.
Yeah.
I was okay. And then fast forward about 5 years. Like I said, I was very focused in school, really wasn't into dating or anything like that. But I'm a very friendly person. I have a lot of friends. I've always been blessed to have a lot of friends. And my father found a note from a girl flirting with me. And again, very religious. My dad's a pastor. I'll just put that out there.
Yeah.
He's one now. And he kicked me out.
Wow.
When he found that, he didn't ask any questions. We didn't have the conversation of, hey, are you?
Right.
I came from a religious background to where, I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
And but at that, what's so funny, and I laugh about it today, I can, because it's been a journey to be okay with that, is that I didn't even know back then. It wasn't until he kicked me out that I was moving, that my best friend, who I consider sister to this day, she just stopped talking to me because she didn't know how to handle it. And it was through that I stopped eating. I couldn't think. My friend was like, are you sure you don't like her more than just, your best friend? And then that's when the thoughts came like, well, heck, maybe so.
Yeah.
So it was for him kicking me out that I actually came to terms with.
You were able to confront kind of your own identity.
But it was even something that I wasn't even thinking about because I was just so focused on school.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you think maybe you were focusing on school because of some of the challenges and things? Like, this is something you can lean into that's 100%. Consistent?
100%. Growing up, college was the only way.
Yeah.
You had to go to school. You had to be, great. Again, don't come from money, so I have to be perfect, and get the scholarships and make something out of myself.
What was your mindset putting this much pressure on yourself as a kid? Did you feel it, or was it just, this is what I had to do?
It's just me. It's always been me, and my sister's the same way.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
So you finish, you get through school.
Yep.
Right? You graduate high school.
Did.
College.
Started.
Okay. Because this is the big buildup, right?
Big
college is the thing.
Yeah.
And so what was the college experience?
So the college experience, I loved it, and then some more issues happened. My sister lost a child, found out a whole different, personal mess there with a relationship that I had. She ended up cheating on me with my best friend / roommate.
Yeah.
So from there, I kind of just turned, away from the world. And I was like, I'm just going to join the military. I just want to travel. I don't want to be seen. I just want to, make that happen. And so I worked very, very hard to get into the military. I've always been thick, curvy.
Right.
And even back then, and they told me I had to lose about 30 pounds to get in.
In what time frame?
This happened in February. I enlisted in July.
So 5 months?
Yeah. But I really didn't get serious about the weight loss. I would say about a month and a half.
Wow.
So it was Taco Bell gorditas, chicken gordita supremes, 2 a day at 5 o'clock, and the Hollywood diet. I don't know if you remember that from back then, that juice that we would, drink, but I made it happen, and I shipped out on July 27th.
Wow. So, I mean, it's a transition here too. So, I mean, do you, again, like, do you feel like maybe were you still in a way like challenges as a child growing up, right?
Yeah,
and you're leaning into school.
Yeah.
And then you get to college and you're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Were you still kind of, in a way, like deep down kind of struggling to like, who am I really? What am I really
absolutely.
trying to do?
Absolutely. I think my dad, because not only did he kick me out, he disowned me. I don't have a relationship with my dad. I really don't have a relationship with much of my siblings.
Wow.
My oldest brother, me and him, we stay in touch. Isabel every once in a while, but I have twin sisters that I really couldn't say much about. And I think that more than anything has been what has always kept me very insecure of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the military kind of a place where you can go and just, you are who you are and you're one of many and you fit in? And is that the lure of that, or the travel, or what was it? Well,
it was being able to disappear and be part of a bigger cause.
Yeah.
Be a part of something that I could be proud of.
Yeah.
There were crazy people like me. And even then when I enlisted, it was still, don't ask, don't tell.
Right.
So, I mean, that's something that I still kind of battled with. But yeah, for the first time, I was like, this is where I belong. Like, I would bleed green because I was Army.
Yeah.
So I signed up. I was airborne psychological operations.
Wow.
I was scheduled to get my wings in August. Airborne.
So you go through basic training, you did all that, and you're in.
I'm in.
This is your thing. Did you think like this is career then, like a career
Absolutely.
military?
So, yep, I started, again, this is what I thought I wanted to do. It was going to help me pay for college because I still felt like I needed that. And, be able to travel the world and just be a contributor to society in a positive way.
So what's the mindset as you're going through this? I keep coming back to that, but you're, like you said, physically not quite the mold of the Army, and they say, hey, you got to do this or you can't, and I don't know if the person that told you that thought, okay, well, let's see if you come back. And like, that was hard.
Yeah, it was.
So what was the mindset to make that happen? Why did you do it?
To prove that I was good enough. That I could.
To who?
To myself.
To you? Yeah. And how did it feel once you had done that? Was it like maybe validating in a way? In a way,
but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened in the military career then? So you said you're getting ready to go.
Getting ready to go.
Yeah.
Yep. So my sister lost a child. And I've always been the partier, the goer, the life of the party. My sister's always been very reserved, and she got married young, had a child young, so she's never lived. I've always would joke around. So when all that happened, I moved in, with her, and I'm like, you got to start living, girl. You're so young, you're beautiful, you got to get out there. So I moved in to be a support for her.
Okay.
So in this process, this was from Texas, I moved back to Michigan.
Okay.
And I was in a horrible car accident.
Oh, no.
Where I snapped my femur in half, shattered my knee, and that cost me my military career.
Wow.
That happened in May.
And you were supposed to get your wings in
August.
So it's coming up. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what, I mean, I would say, what was that like? I know that, I'm sure.
Oh, it was horrible.
It was.
Yeah. I was in denial when, funny enough, in the car accident, the airbags go off. I see a whole bunch of smoke. In the movies, you don't see the smoke when the airbags, go off. So I thought the car was on fire.
Like smoke from the airbags.
From the airbags, yeah.
Looks like what Jared does in here, right? With the smoke coming everywhere.
Yeah. So I literally crawled out of the car because I couldn't walk. And I'm here laying on the ground with my brother, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, there went my military career. Like, That's all I could think of. And I'm here in denial, like moving my leg, the front half, top half is moving, the other part is just laying there. And I'm like, it's not broken. I can wiggle my toes. I'm good.
Gosh.
But yeah, just that ended that just like that.
So what do you do now? Like, I'm sure there's a period of time you got to pick yourself back up and.
Yep. Took me about a year to fully recover, be able to walk.
Physically.
Yeah. Mentally, I don't think I recovered until I joined Liberty National.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it almost like you kind of finally find a place where like you can, I don't want to say, disappear, because I don't think that's the right word, but you can fit into a larger group in the military, right? And you can associate with the mission and the, like you said, you bleed green.
Yeah.
And then you kind of lose that. Do you feel like now you're just kind of back out on your own?
Yeah. Yeah. I was frustrated. I was very frustrated. But again, being a woman of faith, I always felt everything happens for a reason, and I just kept relying on that.
Yeah.
Just kept
don't know why, but
I know now.
Yeah.
I know
of course you know now, right?
But I didn't know then.
Yeah. So what's next? Corporate America a little bit?
Corporate America, yep. So I got a job at T-Mobile. Great company. I dedicated many years there. Top 1%. They have conventions, cool, not as cool as ours, but they do have them. And I would go to the conventions, and it was very hard because no matter what I did, I was never advancing. I would never get a lead position or a manager position, which constantly fed into the I'm not enough. I'm not good enough, right? And it wasn't until I had a conversation with a friend of mine. He was like, you just don't get it, do you? And I'm like, don't get what? He goes, you do the job of 3 people with a smile on your face. Why are they going to promote you? And I was like, what? That's not how it should work.
It's not right.
Right. You're supposed to be the best at it, and not because I'm naturally the best. I give a lot into everything that I do to be among the top, to move up, right? I thought that's what corporate America was for. And I was very disappointed when I found that out. So from there I went to Bank of America.
Okay.
And in my interview, I told him, I started at that point, that was a pivoting point for me to be very vocal with what I want out of life. And I told him, I'm like, look, my work will speak for itself. In 6 months, if I am above what your standards are, I want the position of lead. They kind of chuckled and laughed. Yeah, of course, and I excelled, and I was moving into that direction. And then I got a phone call that my stepdad had a massive heart attack.
Oh.
My mom has seizures, so the stress of that, caused more seizures. So that's what ended in me to move back to Texas.
Okay.
I get here thinking, all right, this is going to be great. And
you're going to transfer with Bank of America.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you guys remember that, but that's, 2012 is when all the layoffs and mortgage thing was going on.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'm on an onboarding interview, and it's actually to let me know that they froze all, they had a hiring freeze and they laid off my department. So I'm like,
wow.
What? So that left me looking for a job now here back at my mom's.
Yeah.
After being, on my own. Full circle, right? After leaving home at 18 and being on my own to coming back to her at the age of 27 was like, what are we doing? I need something fast. I didn't stress about it. Cake decorator, call center experience, retail. I was like, I'll find something, not a big deal. Yeah, no.
Didn't work out that way?
No, dead silent. First call I got was Liberty National.
So you're not looking for insurance?
No, I honestly, when I got the call, I was like, I'm taking the interview. I honestly thought it was a bank, and then when I looked into it,
sounds
I was
like, Liberty National.
Well, yeah, and then when
sounds like a bank.
When I looked at the insurance, I was like, they screwed up somehow. Like, I don't know how they got my resume, but again, I at this point, I was like, Lord, just give me an opportunity. I know that I'm meant to be bigger and greater than what I am. Just give me the opportunity. I won't complain. I will take it and run with it. And so when I got the call, I'm like, let Liberty ring. I guess this is it,
So you come in for the interview and you'd say, let's give it a shot?
Yeah, well, there was a couple things in the interview. So Ken Keith was the one that did our CLB.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
Absolutely.
And, there was a couple things that he said in the interview or in the CLB that really, called out to me. One was like, are you tired of someone that doesn't even know you telling you what you're worth?
It's definitely happened to you in your past.
100%. I was like, that's me.
Yeah.
He's preaching.
You experienced it.
Yeah, are you tired of having a glass ceiling or, having negative things have to happen around you in order for you to move up? Yep, that's me. And he was like, are you tired of not being paid what you're worth? He was like, this is an opportunity where you will get paid as much effort as you put in. And that was just gold, to me. And I was like, oh, this is it. And then it's still, well, how am I going to make this happen? And as I was having that thought, like, I can't do this. He said, if you're coachable and trainable, and you allow us, you do what we tell you to, you will be successful at this. That I can promise you. And I was like, sold. Let's go. This is what I need. And after that CLB, I remember, they leave the room, and I went looking through, because we were at Irving at the time, and I found him in a conference room, and I peeped my head, and I was like, "Hi, sir, just want to let you know, my name is Michelle Bourdon. I'm your next agent." And if you know Ken Keith, he just gave me that smirk, looked over his glasses and, okay. It just smiled like, like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I remember, the takeaway. So I'm here waiting for the call.
Right.
And I remember that day like yesterday, when I was walking out of Walmart and Michelle Sellers gave me a call. I'm like, yeah, we would like to invite you in, and for a final interview and see. And I was so excited.
Yeah. So it was like really up until this point in your life, it's like you have this internal fire and motivation
100%.
and like, I'm going to make something, but you had never had that opportunity.
Nope.
You had a ton of adversity, ton of stuff you've had to overcome. So you hadn't really become yourself yet, right?
Right.
So what's your mindset? I mean, you're going through this, but is there self-doubt? Are you struggling with who you are? I mean, where is your state at this point?
I was 100% on faith. I felt like this was the opportunity that I was praying for, and that God was answering my prayer, and I just didn't know how to do it. And but I really, really leaned in on Ken Keith's words. If you do what we say, you will be successful. And I was like, I know I can do that. If
I can follow directions.
Yeah. If he tells me to jump, I'm going to say how high, how fast, and when do you want me to stop? So that's kind of just what I just told myself, like, you can do this as long as you have a guide. And I feel like Michelle, Sellers, Eric, Lisa Blanton, Ken Keith are all people that really molded me and gave me that belief, that I could do this. It was through the system. Yeah.
So you start, you're getting in, and then when do you become Bourbon? Because this is like a new person. Right?
Yeah.
So, talk about how that happened. It's a great story.
Yeah.
And then what did it mean?
It's my favorite.
And what did it mean from who you felt you were identity-wise and just internally and mindset-wise before and then after?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So we were actually in a meeting, and Ken was going over reports. So it was me, Lisa Blanton, and we were sitting in there, and he's calling my name. And so they used to call me 2L.
Okay.
Right, because Michelle Sellers spells her name with 1, I'm with 2, but Ken hated that. And so he would call me Bourdon because we're both ex-military. And he's reading reports, and instead of Bourdon, he says Bourbon. Me and Lisa, we look at each other, we start laughing, we're like, okay. Second time he says it again, Bourbon. And we're like, okay, sir, we know what you're thinking of. It was a quality report. So
right.
Fitting.
You didn't have a drink after looking at this report.
Right. And I was a headache for him on that. And then the third time he said it, we're just laughing. We're like, okay, sir. And he's like, if you know Ken, he's, oh, hell, I'm just going to call you Bourbon from now on. And I loved it. I joked around. I was like, oh, I like it. Dark, smooth, strong, it fits. But when I first started, I always played a role. And, just through different books and different mentorships from Eric, that I would read and listen to podcasts. And there was, I remember reading or hearing somewhere to put affirmations on your mirror. So growing up, I used to love this cartoon clip. It was in the newspaper called Love Is, right? And it'd be like, love is, blah, blah, blah. And so I wrote Bourbon is. And then I put all characteristics on that mirror that I felt that I needed to possess to be successful at this.
That you didn't have yet.
That I didn't have, or that I didn't think I had.
Sure.
She's good enough. She's worthy of people's time. She's skinny enough. She's pretty enough, she's boss. She's professional enough. She's worth of people's time, just different things. And every day when I would get ready, this is who I am, and I call it a worry tree. Every day leaving my house, I would pass this tree and I'd be like, all right, Bourbon, you're on. Michelle, stay home. And when I would come home, all right, Bourbon, you're done. It's family time. So one of the things that really stuck with me, because I shared this list with Ken, we always hear the phrase, fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I'm going to challenge you to fake it until you become it. And that has stuck with me since then. So, and I haven't mastered the list.
Sure.
But I will say that I'm a lot more confident in my abilities, at least to be able to help people and do what I love to do.
Yeah. I don't want to put you out on a limb and make you very vulnerable here, but were these things these were your insecurities?
Oh, 100%.
These were your challenges? And it just, again, you think about your journey and everything that happened to you as a child, moving around so much and leaning into school, and then the event that happened in Michigan, and then, you figuring out who you are as a person, and then, your family kicking you out because of that, and all these challenges and insecurities. And this was kind of a way for you just to, I'm going to hit them head on and create a new person.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always felt that, I have a good heart. I'm a great friend. In that aspect, I never had a doubt, but in my own abilities, I've just always been that fun girl.
Yeah.
I never felt like I had any substance, in the sense of worthiness, and I think, that's what Bourbon is. I'm worthy. I'm good.
And just what a mindset to be able to, this is the opportunity to change it up. So what happened now that you are Bourbon?
I'm Bourbon. Still developing, but yes.
Still developing, but what
baby
was
Bourbon?
Baby Bourbon. It's the 1 year, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna as you're growing and evolving, how are you seeing this impact the business? And just your life and success in general?
Yeah. So I was married, with my wife at the time, Clarabelle, and I was just working nonstop, because that's what they told me to do. I became an AD, so I was out by 7 a.m, wouldn't come home till 9, 10 o'clock at night. In the individual market, if you're out that late, that's money hour.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to see you that late. So home life, it was a struggle. We actually split up because of it. I was like, babe, give me a year. They say, you do this for a year, you got a career. So just give me a year to figure it out. And, no fault, now we're back together.
Okay.
Thankfully. But it was a struggle then because I was so stressed trying to figure everything out, and I was not good. I had quality issues. But my quality issues was because I didn't have enough self-confidence and worth, so I was writing, people in the hood, people that they saw the value in what we have. But, if something happened, it's life insurance or paying for this meal or, or getting new tires. And so my quality, tanked, but it's because I always knew that I wasn't where I wanted to be. It wasn't because of the system or the policies or the company. It was me. I was the problem.
So you took ownership of it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Because there were so many people around me that were successful.
Right.
The sellers, Jeff Splon, Brittany, those were the people that I grew up in, Lisa. So I knew that and I think that was a part of it. I wasn't good enough. And that's why I wasn't successful.
Yeah.
And so Bourbon, having this persona was like, this is how you get good enough to be amongst the top and amongst the elite. Yeah.
So. It reminds me of a story that you told of when you first started, even you would just go jump in manholes, construction workers, and be like, hey, you need some life insurance?
Yeah. And I love it because Ken used to call me ignorance on fire.
Yeah.
Ignorance on fire. He's like, you got that fire in your belly, ignorance on fire. Yeah. Because Eric would always say, this is an opportunity where you can go anywhere. I won't say exactly what he said. It was something about a swinging cat, but I won't say that. But, if you do that enough, you're going to find someone that needs it.
Yeah.
And so they told me, go talk to people. So whenever I would see construction, I would love it. I'm bilingual, so I would always go, after my Spanish market, and I would always pick the guy that was in the hole.
Yeah. Dangerous job down
there. Yeah,
hey,
excuse me. And they're like, girl coming onto a construction site. So they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, do you got any life insurance? And they'd be like, what? And I'm like, well, you're depending on this guy right here to make sure that nobody does anything to you down there. So your life is in their hands. Do you have life insurance? If something were to happen to you, what would happen to your family? And they would always look at me like, where'd you come from? And I'm like, I know you're busy right now. Here's my card. Give me a call. But I would leave that thought and And so that's how I really got started. And then referrals. That's when I met you with the new laptop presentation. And I took it and I ran with it.
You're one of the first ones to get on that. Yeah.
And I loved it, because I thought it made things so much easier collecting referrals. And when people say, okay, well, we need to collect 5 referrals per household. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do 10. When they're like, okay, it's 10. Oh, you're not going to match my 10. I'm going to do 15 to 20. And, but yeah, Ken called me ignorance on fire. And and it was, it truly was. I just focused, I relied on the system that we had before us. You do this and this and this and this, and you do that and this will happen, and yeah.
How much of that is like, you could define it as the mindset of the obstacles aren't going to stop you. Almost the obstacles are the way to where you want to be. And so like, some people, I don't want to go jump in a manhole, or I don't want to go, into places where you went to, or, like how much of it is like the obstacle is going to be the path to lead you to where you want to go, so it doesn't slow you down. It's kind of how you become that, quote, ignorance on fire.
Yeah. Reading, I came across something that said, you're always going to be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
You're either going to be uncomfortable with a job that you hate, mundane, Monday through Friday, clocking in, clocking out, and be okay living paycheck to paycheck. You'll be comfortable with the job because it's not challenging you, but you're going to be very uncomfortable looking at your bank account and figuring things out. Or how I've always seen this opportunity is I'm going to be very uncomfortable out there, but at least I'm doing it for something good. I'm helping people along the way. I'm helping other people see this opportunity. But more importantly, I'd rather be uncomfortable there, but not be uncomfortable when I look at my bank account. And so
that's so good.
The price for me, we're going to be uncomfortable somewhere, right? I'd rather it be where I can control it and then, travel to take care of the uncomfortableness.
Yeah. Choose your comfort and choose your discomfort. Right.
Absolutely. And that's something that stuck with me. So
that's great.
I've been chasing it ever since.
Yeah. So then, because you have 2 stints with the company, right? We're getting down to this point. You left.
I did.
So
I did.
It's through that and then coming back. What happened?
So, like I said, quality, which was 100% my fault. I take ownership of that. But I love music and I love dancing and I love food. I love to cook. And so we had the opportunity as a family, my mom and a cousin of mine, to open up a restaurant bar.
Oh, okay.
And so at this time, because my quality was what it is,
it's a challenge, income.
Huge challenge. I stepped down. And then I started working. It was supposed to be all 3 of us. So I started working the restaurant, part-time. We did get one. And then still doing Liberty.
Okay.
But it got to the point.
It's really hard to do it part-time. It doesn't work part-time.
100%. Yeah. But I was like, I can work the nights, I can work the weekends because it was an individual market.
Right.
But it got financially, it made sense for me to just give everything to the restaurant. And so I left thinking that I was pursuing a bigger dream.
Yeah. What did you find out?
I know.
What did you find out?
Little did I know. That didn't last very long. It was a huge accomplishment because I got it done.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of hurdles to get it open. Finally, towards the end, turned a profit. But I was so deep in the hole at that time, I was like, I'm not going to take another loan. I'm done with it. And I had no work-life balance. Like my friends, if they wanted to see me, they had to come to my restaurant.
Right.
Because I was there all the time.
I'll make you some food, but you got to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly, But so I let that go. And then at this point, my sister is an accountant. She was working for someone. And I'm like, Rachel, it doesn't make any sense. Like they're billing you so high and you're getting paid $15, $20 an hour. Why don't you go in business for yourself? And she's like, well, if you move to Austin and do this with me, I'll do it. And so I was like, all right, bet. And so I moved to Austin.
To go into business with her.
To help her.
Okay.
That's her thing. I am not a numbers person. I am not a computer person. I strive for the human interaction.
Sure.
But I knew that that's the push that she needed, and I was there for her.
Okay.
But during this time, Jason Everett called me. That's when he was opening the Dallas office.
And he's an agent center. He's been on the podcast.
Yeah.
He's right behind you and his bobblehead there. He's looking over you.
I love the man.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. He had called me and he was like, hey, I'm opening a venture in Dallas. You're the missing point. I have a guy. He's great. I think you guys will make a great team. What do I need to do to get you to come on board, to come back? And, and I never really wanted to leave, but I was like, you know what, let me get my sister up and going And then if you still want me, when that time comes, I'll give you a call and we'll go from there. And that's kind of how it happened.
Wow.
I got my sister good. She's still very successful to this day, doing that. And she still has her business. And I called Jason on a Thursday. And I messaged him on Facebook because I didn't have his number. Within 5 minutes, he was like, hey, let me call you back. Called me. And that Monday I was in the office meeting with Blake Gaither.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blake Gaither is now an agency owner as well with Jason.
Proud of
That's
him.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And John Ramos came out of that office as well, right? So you came back and then here you are, right?
Yeah, hit the floor running. I called Jeff because I was still friends with him and Brittany and all that. And I was like, hey, I'm coming back. I want to do the Worksite. Because at this time I got back with my wife. We had our first son, Mark Anthony. And she was like, I support you. But, how about we try the Worksite market? Mm-hmm. And I came back to this because as I was working with my sister, I had a good friend, that was in the company. He was like, Bourbon, you're so miserable because you're not doing what you love. And that's kind of where it hit me. Like, I'm helping my sister with her dream.
Right.
This isn't my dream, and the relationship I have, with Andy, we're very, very truthful. Like, I don't rely on a lot of people and open up. And he was like, that's why you're miserable. And he was like, just come back. And I'm like, really? And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, it makes all sense. So that's, came back and I reached out to Jeff and I was like, I'm coming back. I'm going to prove my stripes, but I want corporate. I want to be a corporate trainer. And he was like, okay, and did what I did and moved up the ranks there, proved myself, and took him a while.
Yeah.
To call me 3 years later. But,
right. Well, you earned it, right?
Yes.
And I'll just say, like, for what it's worth as well, like just my interactions with you. You talked about that a little bit when you were in the one agency that you first started with, and then. You always struck me as somebody who had that fire, like what Ken said.
Ignorance on fire.
Ignorance on fire. I didn't put the ignorant part on there, but you just had that drive, and obviously you had challenges on the quality side, and you learned from that. I'll tell you, it was disappointing when it was like, oh well, Bourbon's gone, and then to see you come back, it was good. It was good to see that because I just, you can see it. Like there's something there. Just get after it. So you're back and you spent 3 years in the field and then.
So about 4 years in the field.
4 years in the field.
And then I got the call.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I knew this. I mean, I got tattooed on me. My first year, talking about mindset, we were torch marked then.
Okay.
So I got the torch mark put on there. And that was part of building Bourbon as well.
So you got the Torchmark logo tattooed.
Torchmark logo, yeah.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, right there.
And because I was so insecure and so nervous to meet people, I purposely put it there so when I would shake people's hands, my eyes would always look and I'm like, this is opportunity you asked for.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. Like, don't let these fears and insecurities stop you from being great. And
it's a great presence of mind just to know to put that type of a reminder for yourself.
Yep, and then now we moved to Globe, so I had to get the Globe.
I was gonna say, did you have any guess that we were gonna completely rebrand the company what type of tattoo impacts does that have?
I don't have any more space here, so let's stick with the Globe. No, just kidding.
Yeah, right.
But it's been a journey for sure. But
it's just such a presence of mind to be able to identify where you are. Yeah. And give yourself reminders of what you need to do to be better. So I think a lot of people don't do that enough. So then, it's kind of, I'll tell you one thing about you again is when you came into the home office, you told me, he's like, hey, I'm going to be a director. Yeah. And I'm not going to say I had the same reaction. It was like Ken, like, hey, I'm going to be your next. Yeah. But, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sure.
So,
we'll see.
Let's put in the work, right? And you put in the work.
Yeah. And, that's something that I got from, again, my experience with T-Mobile. I'm sure I annoyed you and Steve.
Sure.
With every opportunity I had. Hey, am I going to be your next director? And it was just because.
And you weren't. By the way, you weren't always the next director.
Right.
Right. So you saw other people. That would come from the outside or come from up, and then
But I never lost faith. I was like, I know it in time. Like I know I got to grow and I got to learn, and every step was different. But this is what I want, and. I mean, you don't get somebody more faithful than me, for the company. I'm all gung-ho. And I was here for the ride, and it didn't matter how long it would take me.
Yeah.
To make it happen.
So it just, again, it's just that great mindset, keep coming back to it of here's a challenge, here's some adversity. It doesn't derail you.
No.
You know that the obstacle is going to get you to where you need to be.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
Bourbon, what a fantastic story.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Before we close out, we have a tradition. As you can see here behind you, they've all been very attentively listening to you as you talk. Those are our season 1 guests, on the Level Up Lifestyle podcast. You get a bobblehead of yourself.
I'm excited about
that. It's kind of cool. Yeah. So, put it in your office, and then
absolutely.
We're going to have one that'll kind of be memorialized of your time here as well.
I like it.
To sit in the future. But so the bobblehead, by the way, is on its way. It's in a container ship somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. I think there's the shipping challenges of today's world, but it's coming.
Okay.
We might even be able to put a screenshot up here for people that are watching on YouTube to see what it looks like with the artist rendering.
Yeah.
But if the bobblehead represents becoming Bourbon, and who you are now, what would you tell yourself as Michelle Bourdon, just getting started?
You're enough. It's not going to be easy, but it's definitely worth it, and you're worth it. Is definitely what I would say, because my mindset then was I'm gonna make it. I don't know how, I don't know when. I was just hoping that I wasn't making the wrong choice. Because you hear that when you get into insurance, right?
Yeah.
What? You're doing what? You're crazy,
The doubt starts creeping in from inside and outside.
But I was so used to that. I was so used to people be like, oh, you're so cute. You're the dreamer. Or you're this or you're that. And almost dismissing me, But I would look back and like, you're enough and you did it. You did it. Everything happened for this moment right here.
Yeah.
And I'm living my best life, and I love my life. I love the company. I love the career. I love the people that I work with. And to me, that's what life is about, and it doesn't get better than that. So I hope I can continue to help people along their journey. I always say that I learn from everybody. I'm a firm believer in, study at the feet of giants, and eventually you'll become one. But along that journey, you're feeding into other people, and it just, you guys, it doesn't get better than what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bourbon, thank you so much for being here. And,
thank you for having me.
Of course.
It's a huge honor.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has inspired you on your path to success. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. See you soon on the Level Up Lifestyle Podcast.